a weekend mechanic.
Woody Anderson Ford, located at the corner of Jordan and Sparkman, as well as Hughes Road and Madison. You can also check out the great deals at WoodyAndersonFord.com.
They get up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas.
Hold on. You're getting up to 25 cents off a gallon with the free Get Upside Gas app while I'm paying full price?
You know it. People earned over $1 million last year. You just got to take a picture of your gas receipt and bam, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm downloading the free Get Upside Gas app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code CAR for a 25-cent a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to
Good morning from the traffic center. Heavy traffic load this morning, and we've got rain back to the west. The entire area is going to be dealing with rain before the morning's over, so you be very careful on that ride in. Right now, though, it looks pretty good. The Somnodent from Dr. Sandman's an easy-to-use oral device, insurance approved for sleep apnea and for snoring. 350-CARE or RandallSandlin.com. Captain Nick in the North Parkway, Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
From the WZDX Pinpoint Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Severe weather will be possible beginning after the lunch hour and continuing as we head into the evening. If this threat for severe weather does come to fruition, all modes would be possible. Our biggest concerns are going to be damaging winds and some very large hail, but there also is a tornado threat included. Temperature-wise, it is going to be a relatively warm afternoon, highs hanging out in the upper 70s, some of us climbing into the lower 80s, dropping into the mid-upper 50s as we head into the overnight rain comes to an end early Wednesday morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com. $576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
Welcome into another brand new live edition of Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond, and we're with you until 9 a.m. And hope everyone is having safe travels wherever you may be headed this morning, whether it be to school or whether it be to work. We glad you're joining us this morning as well. What do we've got in store for you? Well, of course, the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline is open for you all morning for the next 2 hours. 256-576-4977. We can get your reactions to anything that you want to talk about. Of course, today is May 4th, so I guess we need to say May the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day to everybody out there. I know, it's one of those days. But anyway, we've got a lot on the table to get through this morning. We were at Bill Penny yesterday. We broke down the NFL draft. If you didn't get in on the conversation yesterday and you want to react to things from the draft, feel free to do so today, 256-576-4977. That's the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. We welcome your phone calls all morning. We talked about it a little bit yesterday late in the show, but Sports Illustrated talked about college football playoffs, a 27th-month discussion, who's in favor of the college football playoffs and why. We talked a little bit about it, but there were some nuggets there that we didn't quite get through yesterday. So we'll talk about that. And then the odds to win the national championship in college football are out again. And we're going to give you the 7 picks that they say these are the odds to win the national championship. Then we're going to ask you if someone that's not in those odds, not in those 7, have a chance to make it and win the national championship. Because it all kind of goes together with what Sports Illustrated talked about. So we'll talk about that. Big day for baseball, because yesterday, Steve, Drew, and myself, we had the chance to head out to Toyota Field. The Rocket City Trash Pandas open the season tonight on the road in Chattanooga. They've got 6 games on the road. They're going to open that season. They're going to be home in 7 days for the season opener. For the inaugural season opener. I shouldn't say inaugural. Yeah, for the very first season opener. Rocket City Trash Pandas. Obviously, the former Mobile Bay Bears relocating up to Huntsville. Didn't get to play last year because of the pandemic. So we didn't have baseball up here. Baseball's returning to the Rocket City. This time in Madison. But we had a good time out there at Toyota Field yesterday. We had a chance to visit with Jay Bell, the manager. We had a chance to visit with Torrey Hunter Jr. Yes, that is the son of longtime Major League Baseball standout Torrey Hunter. And then David McKinnon. We got to visit with those 3. Great conversations. Beautiful ballpark. But tonight, the Rocket City Trash Pandas start the new era in Chattanooga. Hopefully, the weather will cooperate and they'll get to play. But we will hear from all 3. Well, we'll hear from Jay Bell and Torrey Hunter Jr. as the show goes on. The transfer portal for college football is busy. Guys going in, guys going out. Couple going out yesterday. Tennessee getting some help on that linebacker spot. Alabama getting a wide receiver. We told you to pay attention, to kind of keep an eye on this a little bit yesterday. And by the time Drew and I managed to go from Bill Penny Toyota to the 97.7 ESPN The Zone studios, that news had already happened. So we told you it had been fast, and it was fast. We'll talk about all of that. The Alabama A&M Bulldogs. We mentioned this yesterday. They captured the SWAC championship over the weekend. They also picked up some more hardware as well. So we will talk about that as well. But we appreciate you for waking up with us this morning. 256-576-4977. The Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline is wide open for you on this Tuesday morning. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Don't forget, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So we've got 4 different ways that you can watch us each and every morning. But we start with the college football playoffs, and we were talking about this yesterday, and that is Sports Illustrated and Ross Dellinger, who joined our show yesterday, talked about expanding the playoffs and did an article. Basically, it's called Inside 27 Months of Playoff Expansion Discussions and the Arduous Path Ahead. Okay, he goes into this article and basically states that there are 10 of the 11 members of the College Football Playoff Management Committee. They spoke to Sports Illustrated, and they offered a clearer picture on the discussions of the expansion of the college football playoffs, the potential timeline, the possible formats, the biggest hurdles, and maybe the most of all, their personal feelings on the expansion themselves. Okay, 5 committee members say they are pro-expansion, and 3 are open to the idea of expanding the college football playoffs. Now, here's their reasons, and this is how we kind of ended the show yesterday. They say that diversifying what's recently been a field of the same teams, your Techs, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, your Ohio States, affording highly ranked mid-major programs an opportunity and giving a shot at more programs. That is what some of the committee members are saying and told Sports Illustrated. So the Cincinnatis, the UCFs, those mid-major programs, giving them an opportunity. That is what the feeling is among some of the college football playoff committee members right now. Another two commissioners describe themselves as undecided on expansion. Now, Bill Hancock, the executive director, says, hey, don't read too much into this. 4 has worked. 4 has gone that way. In the article, they quote Greg Sankey. And they talk about Greg Sankey saying that 4 has worked. The SEC commissioner in this article states that 4 has worked. And he feels that they do not need to expand. That is Greg Sankey's feelings in this article. So how much, though, it all comes down to money. And how much money is distributed. As a part of the college football playoff agreement, revenue is distributed unequally, okay? $462 million in revenue from the 2019 playoffs. 366 of that $462 million went to the Power 5 and Notre Dame. Just $91 million went to the Group of 5, and $4 million was split among the FCS Independent and the FCS. So your Jacksonville States, Tennessee States, Alabama A&Ms, all those schools split $4 million. $462 million went to the Power 5s and Notre Dame. So that is where the Group of 5 will likely have more regular participation in any new playoffs. Thus, the Group of 5 executives want a bigger cut of the pie. So the Group of 5 wants more money, even though the Power 5 is going to get more teams in if they expand the playoffs. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, that's what we were talking about yesterday. I mean, I know everybody wants expansion, but it's just going to be dominated further by the SEC and the Power 5. You're going to have as many as 4 SEC teams, making up the 8 teams at times. I mean, you could see the top 2 teams from the West and the top 2 teams from the East being in the playoff, and or even 3 from the West and 1 from the East. I don't think that's beyond a realm of possibility. But again, that's what it's about. It's about the Power 5, and the Group of 5 having to come to some sort of agreement because the Group of 5 wants more, leeway. They want a chance to win a national championship because right now it's extremely tough to get into the Final Four and it's extremely tough to compete for a title. Even though, I'll go ahead and say it, a Group of 5 team will never win it, ever. In my opinion, they're never going to win a national championship in football. I know BYU did it back in the Stone Ages, which is what that seems like now in 1984, but you're never going to win it in a playoff. I don't think they'll ever be good enough. I think, could they win a game? Yes. But if you've got an 8-team playoff, but when you're talking about having to win 3 games within a month's time, it's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to compete consistently enough. They're not going to be able to win a title. And but again, it is about the money, and it's about either that or them forming their own division and having their own playoff ultimately. But I don't think really that's what they want to happen.
Now, we mentioned Greg Sankey, and in this article, Greg Sankey does say, the SEC commissioner says, 4 has worked, is working, and can work moving forward. So Greg Sankey is on the train of no need for an expansion. He was asked if he's against expansion, and he says he doesn't hold a position, and he's on the working group to listen. He says, I respect the diversity of opinions. That is Greg Sankey. Now, no surprise here. Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott and American Commissioner Mike Oresco have been the most outspoken champions of expansion. So basically, Greg Sankey is happy with the way things are, and the Pac-12 and the American Conference are the ones that are, so to speak, not happy with the way things are right now in college football. But 256-576-4977, that's the number of the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. You can get in on that conversation this morning if you would like. 256-576-4977. That is how we start the show off this morning. As we mentioned, the college football, we talked college football, but the Rocket City Trash Pandas, Drew, getting ready to start. And we had the privilege of being out there yesterday, getting a chance to see Toyota Field, see everything around it, see the ballpark, the dimensions, which, by the way, the outfield wall, if you pay attention to the dimensions, it's anything but just an average outfield wall. It's going to be fun to watch when they finally take to the field out there. Great time yesterday talking to Jay Bell, Torrey Hunter Jr. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was. It was my first time inside Toyota Field. Been by it many times, but went over there to kind of experience that and media day. And as we knew that it was about 24 hours away from the Trash Pandas, hopefully taking the field in Chattanooga for their Southern League opener. Of course, the weather's going to have a lot to do with that, but as we saw the big Jumbotron, they were already counting down the days and the hours until they come home, and that'll be next Tuesday, a week from today, actually.
Yeah.
So now they're down. It was 8 yesterday. Now they're down to 7 days until they debut in front of what we hope is a capacity sellout crowd. I'm sure it will be as the Rocket City Trash Pandas will make their debut in front of the home fans. But before that, due to weather permitting, they're hoping to get in 6 games. This week.
Well, here is manager Jay Bell. You had a chance to ask Jay Bell, and you talked to him about his head coach at Wallace. Well, not his head coach at Wallace State, but Randy Putnam, who is at Wallace State. You had a chance to ask him about that.
Yeah, that's actually his high school coach back in the state of Florida. We actually, I think it's been relatively right around a year since he was named manager, and we had a chance to speak with him. He came into the studios and sat down with us, and that's when I had found out the night before that Randy Putman was his coach, and we had Coach Putman surprise him, call in, and ironically, he was going to see Coach Putman later that day, and they went ahead. They had a nice little personal reunion, but certainly it was great to see Jay Bell, and it was great to ask him, too, about the big lefty, Reed Detmers, who is a guy that wasn't with the organization when we talked with him about a year ago. He was the first-round draft choice in this past June, for the Angels, and he's a guy that, only played a third of a season due to college baseball stopping, but he was one heck of a player at Louisville, and it sounds like they've got high expectations for him. He's going to be on the bump tonight, I believe, should they get a chance to play, and hopefully we'll see him at the debut in this ballpark. But I will say, if he throws the ball as well as he's capable of, get your tickets now and can try to take a look at him, because I think he's on a fast track. They're trying to get him to Anaheim as soon as possible.
All right, here is manager Jay Bell. Drew asked him about how his team managed during the pandemic, how they managed to stay sharp.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we did was we ended up having a lot of Zoom calls with guys. Once Zoom kind of got up and rolling, we did it a lot of different formats prior to, but once Zoom kind of took over as the main way to do it, that's what we did. So we had Zoom calls with guys. We talked about different ways to think about the game. Just kind of make sure that their mind was going, even though their body wasn't. But really, whenever it comes down to it, it's tough to stay baseball ready unless you actually get spikes in dirt. if you get out there and play and you make some mistakes and you learn from those mistakes, that's always the best way to do it. But we did our best to make sure that they kept they stayed engaged. They were in a position where they knew that they were still acknowledged, that they were still our players, and even for staff got together and did the same thing. So it was a difficult year from the standpoint that we didn't get to get out there and do anything, but at the same time, those guys, even with a year off, their anticipation is so great that you'll see a good brand of baseball out there. I know you will.
Rocket City Trash Panda manager Jay Bell on the quality of baseball and staying busy during the pandemic. And the other one that we wanted to hear from, Drew, we got to speak to Torrey Hunter Jr.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool because I grew up watching Torrey Hunter. His dad played baseball for Minnesota for forever. And then with the Los Angeles Angels, it's a name that a lot of baseball fans remember.
Yeah, an all-star, a guy that's a borderline Hall of Fame player. I believe he was a former first-round draft choice as well. He was on some of those really good Minnesota teams during his career. And as you were able to, discern from him, I think he's very proud of his heritage and what his father's been able to accomplish. And his father's been a big part of his journey in this. And now it's ironic. He's kind of the old man on the roster. He's not the oldest player, but he's one of the more experienced, especially when it comes to the outfield.
And you had a chance to ask him about what advice his father gave him.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man, because you see his pictures around the stadium and you hear guys who were here when he was here. You hear the stories, just about the type of player he was, type of teammate he was in the clubhouse. So it's pretty cool to, have those stories and for guys to have those memories. And then it makes them feel old as well because now his son is here. So I get to crack a little old jokes, but now they crack them to me because I got a wife and 2 kids now. So I get all the old jokes now from my teammates. So it's cool.
Well, that wasn't him talking about his dad's advice, and we'll cue that up here in a little bit. That was him about being the old man in the clubhouse. But you did have a chance to talk to him about that, and we'll hear from that a little bit later in the show. But the Rocket City Trash Panda is opening up the season tonight in Chattanooga.
Yep.
Should be a good night. Hopefully they get to play because the last thing you want is not being able to play for a year and then Mother Nature saying, well, we're going to delay it one more day for you.
Yeah. Tuesday has been kind of the day of the week where we knew some severe weather might be coming through. So hopefully the Trash Pandas will be able to take the field. I know they're anxious to do so. It's an older group, when you look at it, but they do have a lot of really 5 of the top pitching prospects in the system for the Anaheim Angels, led by Detmer. So they're definitely going to be strong on the mound, they feel like. But I know listening to Jay Bell yesterday when we had a chance to speak with him, Scott, he's confident that they've got a really good, well-rounded ball club in year one.
All right, let's get our first break in. When we come back, we'll turn the conversation back to college football.
Jake Crain going to join us.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
We are still rolling along in good shape this morning. Haven't found anything accident-wise. No stalls or traffic signal headaches. You be careful on your ride in. Try to get out that door early. You just might need that extra time before we wrap this morning up. Have you tried numerous weight loss plans? Nothing seems to work. Odds are your hormones are the problem. Find out with a free quiz at 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Here's a list of what we have. The Crimson Tide Sports Network, the Atlanta Braves Radio Network, Madison Academy Football, UAH Basketball, the SEC Radio Network, the College Football National Championship Game, the SEC Football Championship Game, NBA Playoffs, MLB Playoffs, and that's just the starting lineup. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
That fact is important for you to know.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner of University Kia, here letting you know we are proud supporters of Madison Academy football. And a quick shout out to my son, Avery Seaton, number 19. Stop into University Kia today and shop our large selection of new Kias, including our all-new Telluride 8-passenger SUV, the stylish new K5, and the sporting new Seltos. Visit universitykia.com to view all our great offers and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia today, because we want to see you in the Kia. Go Mustangs!
This is Steve Moulton from The Drive. Join us this afternoon from 5 to 7 with Wes Neighbors and me. Now back to Talkin Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Mike's on.
All right, 7:25. Welcome back to 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Stay weather aware today. Potential for severe weather or some storms moving through the Tennessee Valley. So stay weather aware today. We ask you to do that. Time for us to talk a little Auburn football. And yesterday was a little tough day for Auburn as far as transfer portal going in. Not coming out, but going in. We told you yesterday defensive tackle Jay Hardy went in the transfer portal. Well, then they also have a backup quarterback also going into the transfer portal as well for the Auburn Tigers.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It was an interesting day for Auburn. And as our next guest is going to join us and explain, it's not surprising if you follow the process when new coaches and a new staff takes over. This is part of the retooling of a football program. It's just the way it is. And we're going to talk to our next guest who does a great job 6 days a week. They grind and the J-Boy Show, and you can of course listen to that on all of your podcast. The Apple Podcast, Spotify, everywhere you can find the J-Boy Show. Also, his new YouTube channel, which is still just in its first couple of months. It's growing every day. I watched one of his Jake's takes yesterday on the D-line to just see some of the his insight into what Auburn is going through right now, retooling this roster under Brian Harsin. But again, remember, there's a subtraction, but there'll also be addition. So you have to continue to watch the transfer portal closely. He does a great job of covering the Auburn Tigers, covering the SEC in its entirety. And of course, we're talking about our good friend Jake Crain, who's with us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Jake, hope you had a great weekend, man. Good morning. You're with Drew and Scott here in Huntsville. How are you?
Hey, man. Did have a great weekend. Hope you guys, the audience, did as well. Really appreciate y'all having me on this morning.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just to start it right off, to get into it, we've seen in the last few days Auburn, a couple of defensive linemen hit the transfer portal. Not surprisingly, because these were guys that did not participate in the A-Day game. Jaron Handy and also Hardy, who I know was a guy that Jay Hardy, they won a spirited recruiting battle with Tennessee. He's from Chattanooga, McCallie. But talk about these two departures along the D-line and for our listeners, glean some insight into what's going on down there on the plains.
Yeah, well, and you guys kind of touched on it. Look, I mean, whether it was, Nick Saban taking the job at Alabama, Mike Leach taking the job at Mississippi State, whenever you have a head coaching change, especially at this level, in a league like the SEC, there's going to be attrition. And the biggest thing you can do, because look, you look at these guys going into year one, we know the expectation level everywhere, especially at a place like Auburn. The fans expect you to win every game. Is that fair? No. But the biggest thing Brian Harsin can do in year one is to set the culture and set the foundation right So once he's able to start signing, these 4 stars, these 5 stars, and really bringing in the personnel he wants, they're coming into a culture that's already built that you either buy in or you don't go to Auburn. I think Clemson, outside of obviously Alabama, Clemson's done an unbelievable job of that. I mean, they've done it to the point where they don't even sign junior college guys. That's how good their culture is over there. And what you don't want to do is keep guys that, and look, Jay Hardy, ton of upside, Jaron Handy, ton of upside, but you can have all the talent in the world, and if it's going to cause a problem in the locker room or if there's going to be, kind of a leak in the boat, it's going to cost you down the line. And you're setting yourself up for the future. Bruce Pearl did an unbelievable job of that for Auburn basketball. Brian Harson's got to do it. And sometimes, you do get some addition by subtraction. And you never want to lose anybody, especially on the defensive line. But I promise you 2 or 3 years down the road, if the culture is where it's supposed to be, then nobody's going to really be thinking about this. They're going to be thankful that all this stuff happened in year 1.
Yeah, well, you mentioned those going out. What are the chances, though, of others coming in via the same route, the transfer portal?
Well, in today's world, it's fast paced. It's I call it the New York lifestyle in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And listen, if you're gonna, it's kind of a double-edged thing depending on how you look at it. Number one, if you're a new head coach coming in, you have attrition. It's tough or whatever. But if you were ever going to be a new head coach coming in and having attrition, now's the time in college football to do it, because you can just go snatch whoever out of the portal. But they have to fit what you're trying to do and stuff like that. But listen, it opens up 2 more scholarships. Now, will Auburn fill both of those with defensive linemen? I don't know. I think they need at least 1 more interior guy. You hope that Andrew Leota, the Northwestern kid, can come in off the edge and give you some depth there. But what I think it may do is open up a spot to go get another receiver, go get another offensive tackle if that's what comes out of the portal. Because, guys, the FCS playoffs are going on right now, and don't think for 1 second that these coaches aren't watching that play, especially up front, seeing if there may be somebody they can pluck from one of these rosters. So I expect Auburn to add some pieces through the summer because, again, you never know with the portal. I mean, you could have a 5-star wide receiver hop in there you never even thought was going to tomorrow. So it can give us and it can take us away.
It really can, because I'll be honest, we reported this yesterday and we'd be coming out of the weekend. But when he went into the portal a little over a week ago, I wasn't anticipating Jamison Williams ending up at Alabama. But sometimes there's a guy that will garner interest from a school that you're not really expecting, because Alabama's got a young but very talented wide receiver room. But sometimes a head coach wants another experienced piece, and that may be the case with Brian Harsin, as you just talked about, maybe at another position like wide receiver for Auburn as well.
No, I agree. I mean, I think they got to go get at least a veteran playmaker from the portal. Mike Woods ends up leaving the SEC, the Arkansas wide receiver transfer. I thought maybe they'd make a run at him. Now, I will say Jamison Williams was down to Alabama and Ohio State in his final 2 coming out of high school. So I wasn't shocked by that. And if you look, he's kind of built like Devontae Smith. Now, he's not Devontae Smith, don't get me wrong. But I think they kind of sold him on the, hey, man, you can be our prototypical, undersized SEC receiver that wins the Heisman. So I think that was kind of a relevant thing for him to go to Alabama. But, yeah, I mean, you look at Auburn's wide receiver room. I like Elijah Canyon. I think there's some guys with some big futures in there. You look at Kobe Hudson. You look at Javarius Johnson, Devian Capers. I think Hal Presley is going to be a kid they signed out of Texas that comes in and makes an impact. But they need to go get a veteran wide receiver from the portal, a guy that understands what it takes a little bit, because they don't have that elite guy that can go win that 50-50 ball right now, that Seth Williams, that you can just throw the ball up sometimes and he can make a play. And in these big games where the margin for error is so tight, you need somebody who can make that play. So I would not be surprised at all to see them hit the portal.
Yeah, and then with T.D. Moultrie, he's a guy that's had an up-and-down career at Auburn. We did not see him in the A-Day game. I don't know if it wouldn't be better off for him, Jake. We saw Markel Benton do this and move down to Jacksonville State. Of course, he did not do a very smart thing, getting ejected in the early third quarter in their playoff game. But I almost think T.D. Moultrie would be better served to jumpstart his the end of his career and perhaps take advantage of moving down. What do you see? Do you see him staying at Auburn, or is it right now just a kind of situation that could go either way?
I think it could go either way. It's pretty rare to see an upperclassman like that be, either in the doghouse like this or be kind of set aside like this. And he's a guy that had a lot of hype coming in. Really hasn't lived up to that. I mean, when he got in there last year, he jumped off sides a couple times in crucial moments. And look, sometimes, there just needs to be a change. Every fit doesn't work out. And I agree with you, man. I mean, I think it's time for a fresh start for TD Moultrie. Maybe divert some eyes in a different direction. And look, who knows? Look, go down to South Alabama where the Senior Bowl is and go blow it up and give yourself a chance or whatever. But I think his time at Auburn's running out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I know we're talking a lot of Auburn and there's a lot of Auburn news, but you also had a chance to sit down with Mike Leach a little bit as well. How is
we're jealous, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been wanting him to come to this league for years. What kind of conversation was it with
what was
Coach
that
Leach?
like?
Oh man, it was incredible. The thing is, I mean, when you get Mike Leach on, really you just kind of ask the question, see where it goes, and shut up. And that's really the recipe for it. And it's great because I mean, we released it this morning, and we talked Mississippi State, but I mean, just the variety of things that we talked about. And again, it wasn't me just asking out of nowhere questions. He'll just take the question and run with it. I mean, I think I asked him. I think I asked him about the wide receivers, and somehow the conversation ended with him telling me how he just caught a 5-pound bass, the biggest fish that he ever caught, and it looked like a monster to him. And then it transformed into how much Starkville reminds him of Valdosta. I mean, just hilarious stuff. I mean, we talk about Pirates. I mean, him talking about Lane Kiffin is one of the funniest things I've ever been associated with.
Well, what then would you think? I mean, you look at the expectations and somehow ESPN, the FBI puts Mississippi State there in the top 10 and all this talk on Mississippi State. Realistically, what should we think about the Bulldogs in year 2 under Leach?
Well, it's funny. I have Mike on and Mike Crain. We've actually formed a little bit of a friendship. But I have them finishing last in the West. I know he's not going to be super excited about that. I look around. I watch their spring game, man. I think they're going to struggle up front. Defensively, they lost some pieces. But to me, I mean, their schedule is pretty brutal as well if you look through it. But how are they going to protect Will Rogers? I actually like Will Rogers. I think he's got moxie. I think he's a really good fit to be the quarterback at Mississippi State, but I don't think they're going to be able to protect him. And we know Mike Leach isn't running the ball. Look, I asked him, what do you say to people, meaning everybody in the world, that says you should run the ball more? And then he told me the story about how he invented the term air raid with Hal Mummy, which is actually a pretty good story as well. But man, I got them finishing last in the West. I just don't think they take a step forward this year. Now it's hard to sleep on a Pirate. You never know, man. But I don't see it this year for Leach and the boys.
Interesting. Very interesting. We're talking to Jake Crain, J-Boy Show, 6 days a week. You can check out his daily radio program as they do a great job featuring SEC head coaches, also personalities throughout the SEC and throughout college and also both football and basketball. He does an outstanding job. But, Jake, I wanted to ask you, too, to circle back. Speaking of quarterbacks, we had some attrition in the Auburn quarterback room, but really not a surprise considering Bo Nix seems to be, really entrenched there, and you only have one football. So Auburn, and with this, you just mentioned the coaching change, so a quarterback moving on.
Yeah, Shayo Garnett hit the portal yesterday. Look, he wasn't going to get any playing time. To me, I think the biggest mover, talking about quarterback, was Demetrius Davis. Coming in from North Shore. He looked to me like the number 2.
Wow.
That's what it looked like to me. Grant Loy, he struggles to throw the ball. I don't think Garnett was going to get any scratch. They've got a few other guys on the roster. But look, I think Demetrius Davis is going to travel. I think they're going to try and redshirt him and make him play, under that percentage of snaps in games. They'll take him on the road, and if something happens, I would not be surprised to see them plug him in there. And I'm going to be honest with you, the couple balls that I saw him throw, I was skeptical of his throwing motion. I don't know if he got into a throwing program right after his senior year, but his delivery looks a lot better. I mean, he put one absolutely on a dime to Malcolm Johnson Jr. On a vertical, and the ball just spun out of his hands really, really well. Threw a comeback to Landon King that I really liked. And again, we know he's a witch when it comes to running. So not surprised. It's part of what you see. What's funny is you look at Auburn's, the kind of quarterback makeup that Brian Harson's looking for, and you look at Holden Gariner, the 4-star kind of pro-style guy that's committed to Auburn that keeps moving up. It kind of gives you a little bit of a hint of where Auburn's going from a quarterback standpoint. And who was Zach Wilson? And here's a crazy stat for you. Who was Zach Wilson's first offer? Or excuse me, who was Trevor Lawrence's first offer? Mike Bobo and Colorado State.
Very interesting.
Wow.
It's always interesting to take a look back at all that, Scott, and kind of the connections in recruiting.
So obviously, Bo Nix. Then we've talked a lot about it because we were looking around the SEC, and going into the draft next year, we were talking about Malik Willis is a name that everybody is starting to mention, and obviously he was at Auburn, and he has the high ceiling right now. What's that ceiling for Bo Nix right now going into what a lot of Auburn fans thought would be the year where we'd be talking about him going into the draft next year as a high commodity?
Yeah, well, there's a few factors that have to go in that. That's the greatest thing about football. It's the greatest team sport on the planet. I look at Auburn's offensive line. Will they be able to build some depth at tackle to protect him? Because that's been a problem too. I always say, Scott and Drew, two things can be true at once. Bo Nix can struggle to play through the pocket and extend plays and keep his eyes downfield in the pocket, and the offensive line can be bad as well. Those two things can happen at the same time. So will Auburn have enough tackle depth to protect him? Do they try and protect him in the scheme, going under center, running a lot of play action, changing the launching point for the defensive end? I think you're going to see that. But that wide receiver group's got to step up too as well. And we'll know, Penn State, they didn't have a great year the last year. Auburn plays a few, you could say cupcakes first 2 weeks, but we'll know by Penn State if Bo Nix has changed at all, if his game's a little bit different. Because, listen, he's got all the ability. We know that. We've never questioned his ability. It's, can he run an offense? Can he not panic? And can he become a professional at the quarterback position? And this is the year to do it. If you can't do it for Mike Bobo and Brian Harsin, you're just not going to do it.
And I've got to ask you this, too, because as we said, you talked to a myriad of head coaches around college football. Another interesting conversation you just had, and we're very familiar with him in this part of the state of Alabama because he was a Harlan Hill Trophy winner at UNA, led them to nearly a national championship during his career, was on their coaching staff as an assistant, and has now risen up the ranks. What were your impressions of Will Hall and what he may and he's going to try to do at Southern Miss? Because Southern Miss is they had a tumultuous year, had I think 3 head coaches last year. But talk about Will Hall going into year one at the helm of the Golden Eagles.
Man, I believe. It's funny, when I was coaching at South Alabama, we actually played them when he was the head coach at West Alabama.
That's right.
But no, I believe. I mean, Will, number one, he gets it. He understands the way that players are nowadays. But he's just got a great feel of the game. The dude's just a ball player, and he's a heck of a coach. And listen, it's not just about drawing up, runs and passes that work. Talking about, the way he wants the kids to feel about him and the system, and going to Southern Miss and being able to balance, the load with football and classes while also enjoying their time. But I love his offensive philosophy as well. He does a really good job. He's intricate in the passing game, but he understands how important the run game is. He understands how important getting in 11 and 12 personnel and being able to get 3rd and 1 and get into 2nd and 4 and threaten teams in the run to open up the pass. I just think it's a great fit. And listen, Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin won't be at Mississippi State and Ole Miss forever. And whenever they move on, I would not be surprised to see Will Hall slide right into one of those spots because he's that talented.
Wow.
Yeah, that's some heady praise, no doubt about it. Well, Jake, great stuff as always, my brother. You continue to do a great job with the J-Boy Show. Great cavalcade, just great guests. And, of course, check out that conversation with Mike Leach that he put up this morning. Will Hall, in the last few days, a couple days ago, that conversation featured as well. Let everybody know how to connect with your show, and then, of course, on your Twitter account.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. You can find us our YouTube channel. It's the J-Boy Show. It's really easy. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio as well. We're on social media. We're at the J-Boy Show. On Twitter and Instagram is THEJBOYSHOW. Tomorrow, I'm releasing my top 10 ranked SEC quarterbacks going into this year with Tom Luginbill. I think people are going to be surprised what Tom Luginbill says about JT Daniel. It kind of goes against the grain, so I really suggest checking that out. Also, got Hall of Famer Terrell Davis coming on Thursday. Really excited about that one, and a few more big names coming on here. And listen, we talk SEC football, basketball, baseball, sometimes a little bit more than that. No politics, nothing like that. And I'm going to start having a segment. I think you guys are going to like this. It's called Prove Me Wrong, where I debate personalities around the country on certain topics. My first victim, Josh Pate. We're talking about expanding the college football playoffs, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I love Josh Pate, man. So knowledgeable with 24/7 sports. But great stuff. Have a great rest of your day, man. Appreciate it, Jake.
Hey, you guys too. Stay safe. Y'all be good. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right, thanks, Jake. Jake Crain joining us, sending us to break. When we come back, how close were the Saints to getting Mac Jones? We'll explain.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Still not a bad-looking ride in. No wrecks, no stalls, no traffic signal problems to deal with. That can change quickly, so you be careful this morning. Put some extra room in there so you got somewhere to go if something does go wrong. From routine care to heart failure, Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist have the expertise to care for all matters of the heart. Doctor visits are important. Please don't put them off. Captain Nick in the Jordan Lane Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Having your own home is awesome, but it's also a lot of work. The good news, finding help for your projects is easier than ever. Introducing Angie, the app that puts all your home care needs at your fingertips. Need a pro to fix that emergency leak? Maybe find someone to build a deck, or even set your seasonal tasks on autopilot. Angie can handle all that and more. Expert pros, hundreds of home projects, clear pricing, and the easiest way to book and pay in seconds. This is Angie, your home for everything home. Download the app today.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. You know, you'll hear people say we're like a family, but here at the Lackey Law Firm, that's really true, not just a saying.
I'm Justin Lackey. With my father and my sister, we have a special connection to each other.
I'm Jennifer Lackey. At the Lackey Law Firm, when we take on your case, you become part of our family. You really do.
And we'll always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life. More important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other. And at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4-RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
I love overpriced stuff. Avocados, designer t-shirts, artisanal water, you name it. That's why I get my internet from the other guys. Paying more for the same stuff. What could be better?
Wow is better, because for just $29.99 per month, we give you the super fast, reliable internet you need and the awesome customer service you deserve. Switch to Internet 100 for just $29.99 per month. And now, learn how to get $150 on us at Huawei.com. Limited to new customers with autopay and paperless billing, equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Offer subject to change. Restrictions and terms apply.
This segment of Talkin Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com. From the Alabama Crimson Tide to the Atlanta Braves, we are 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
All right, 9 minutes to the music. Here we go.
Welcome back. 7:48 on this Tuesday morning. Welcome back to Talkin Ball. 97.7 ESPN The Zone. on a Tuesday morning. 256-576-4977. That's the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. It is wide open for you this morning. And before the break, we were talking about the Saints and the possibilities of the Saints getting Mac Jones. Well, according to Michael Lombardi on his GM Shuffle podcast, Drew, the New Orleans Saints did not stop calling teams. Their goal was to trade up ahead of the New England Patriots
at 15
so that they could get Mac Jones. The only problem was there was nowhere for the Saints to go because Minnesota traded with the Jets. Minnesota didn't go back as far as New Orleans, and they got a good deal. 13 wasn't moving because Rashawn Slater was there and the Chargers weren't going to move. 12 wasn't there because Dallas was going to pick Micah Parsons.
And
they weren't going to move. Yep. 11 became Justin Fields. So the New Orleans Saints had nowhere to go in their efforts to try to move up to get Mac Jones.
And with, Justin Fields dropping a little bit, I even read a report yesterday that if he had continued to slide, the Minnesota Vikings would not have traded out and would have chosen him 14th overall instead of making that deal with the Jets. And I know they've got a lot of money tied up in Kirk Cousins, but he's a veteran, and they would have drafted the young quarterback. But it's always interesting. That was another, secret that was basically the cat was let out of the bag. That, once Mac didn't go to the 49ers, that probably the two teams to watch were the Patriots and the Saints, because the Saints have Taysom Hill. They have Jameis Winston. But I think when you looked at Mac Jones, his skill set, it fit what Sean Payton wanted. And so that's not surprising that they had a lot of interest in. And we saw Sean Payton front and center at Alabama's pro days. I mean, he was there obviously looking around, and it was at Mac Jones.
All right, so once again, 256-576-4977. The Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline is open for you.
And it would have been a great landing spot for him because they have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
I mean, and Taysom Hill I don't think is going to be the long-term starter. Certainly I don't think Jameis Winston will be. It'll be interesting to see what the Saints do after this season, if they try to address it in the next year's draft or if via trade or free agency, if something – because there's already talk of Jared Goff being a one-year guy with the Lions. Would the Saints have interest in him? It's going to be really interesting going forward.
All right, so we mentioned the transfer portal when we were talking to Jake Crain just a little bit ago. But Tennessee and Alabama both getting players to come out of the transfer portal. Once you go in, you can come out. For Tennessee, they get a former Texas linebacker, UT linebacker, Jawan Mitchell, committed to play for the linebackers. He entered the portal back in March. He is now headed to Tennessee. So Josh Heupel and company getting themselves a linebacker. In 2020, he had 62 tackles in 9 games. He averaged 4.5 tackles for loss. In his 2 seasons with Texas, Mitchell tallied 99 tackles, 8 for loss, and 3 sacks.
Yeah, so that's a big pickup for Josh Heupel at a position of need. We've been watching that one for several days.
Yeah.
That we kept thinking that's where the young man was going to matriculate to since going into the portal. So, him and the USC defensive lineman Caleb Tremblay have been added to the roster. We're going to talk to Matt Ray of Sport SI, VR2, which is the Vols. He covers Tennessee athletics for Sports Illustrated, and we're going to talk to Matt. Done a great job on the show, been on with us several times, but we're going to get his thoughts and kind of take a look behind the curtain at, what happened in these 2 additions to the Tennessee defense, because that's the key. We all think they're going to be pretty good offensively.
Right.
Josh Heupel's an offensive head coach. They do have some talent, even though the running back room was kind of decimated with Ty Chandler, certainly, and Eric Gray moving on to Oklahoma and North Carolina, respectively. But, I think they'll still figure out the running back room. And I think wide receiver-wise, they've got some pieces there. then they just have to figure out QB because we know they added Joe Milton. They've got basically 5 guys. What's up with the Caden Salter situation? He's still been suspended. So due to that incident, we've had some kids from Tennessee leave the team. But that just goes back to what Jake Crain was talking about. It's part of it when you have a new head coach.
And then we told you to keep an eye on this one yesterday while we were over at Bill Penny Toyota. And I kind of laughed at the beginning of the show. And I said, because by the time we drove from Bill Penny Toyota to here, to the studios, this decision was already pretty much made. And that is Alabama did get themselves a wide receiver out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, shortly before 10 a.m. yesterday. It was thought to be around noon, but it ended up being earlier. He went public with it on his Twitter account. Jamison Williams from St. Louis, Missouri, is now going from the Ohio State University.
Make sure you get the in there.
Yeah, because they're the runner-up a lot. But they he wants to try to be a winner and go to the University of Alabama and get a ring instead of a runner-up trophy. And so he is he is matriculating from the Ohio State University to the University of Alabama, the 18-time national champion. So Jamison Williams making that move. Alabama needing some experience in that wide receiver room. It's mostly freshmen and sophomores, Scott. And
right.
Now Slade Bolden and John Mechie are experienced, but I think Nick Saban wanted another young man who had been on the highest, biggest stages of college football. And when you're at Ohio State, when you're playing for the Buckeyes, you're definitely playing on the biggest stages. So they're going to bring in Jamison Williams. I think I said yesterday he had 2 years of eligibility. I was told yesterday 3 due to you have the COVID year and all that kind of stuff. Now, do I think he'll play 3 years at Alabama if he's a great player and makes a huge impact? Probably not. Probably more like 2. But still a guy with multiple years of eligibility. He had a 45-yard touchdown catch against the Clemson Tigers in the college football playoff when the Buckeyes advanced before getting beat down mercifully by Alabama, unmercifully, I should say. But Jamison Williams, yes, making it official, moving on from the runner-up and trying to make a contribution to the defending national champions.
So I believe you were talking about this yesterday. Now does that leave them with Alabama with one spot?
I think they've got one spot. There's still some people that want to know and want them to add Henry To'oTo'o. You just read tea leaves, Scott. It just doesn't seem as likely due to I think Alabama has more depth now in their linebacker room than they've had in a few years due to the fact Deontay Lawson looked so good in the spring and is, I think, more advanced than people even were. I think he came in as arguably the top prospect in the state of Alabama, but until you see him practice and go through scrimmages and things of that nature, you don't know how advanced he's going to be, how quickly he will catch on defensively. But he's catching on very quickly. Jackson Bratton, I think, is a really good young player as well. Demoye Kennedy. So these are young backers, freshmen and sophomores, but I think Nick Saban was satisfied with them and the senior Jalen Moody. So they decide. I think they're going to move on from To'oTo'o. He'll certainly have a chance, I think, to go to Ohio State and plug a big hole for the Buckeyes in their defense. And if you watch them against Alabama, they sure as hell need it. But especially with Lurch trying to run after Devontae Smith. And I'm talking about number 32, who's a dirty SOB who tried to, of course, injure Najee Harris early in that game. And if any Ohio State fan says he didn't, then they need to give themselves a lobotomy. But anyway, but I think that To'oTo'o would fill a big need for them. And I think it'll almost be like a trade-off, as I was saying yesterday. And then certainly I think Alabama and Ohio State, for that matter, will be deeply in the mix for JT Tuilamoau as he takes his visits in June and decides where he's going to go before fall camp starts.
All right. The horn is about ready to sound for hour number 1 in the books. Don't forget, stay with Talkin Ball and 97.7 ESPN The Zone for hour number 2. Coming up in hour number 2, we will talk some Tennessee football and recruiting and delve into more on Tennessee getting some help out of the transfer portal. Also coming up in hour number 2, we're going to talk some Alabama A&M football as well. Good news for the Bulldogs. Always like to pass along good news when we can pass it along. And no, they're not talking this time. It's more good news for the Bulldogs.
Hardware.
Yep. And did you know that there are some rule changes in minor league baseball? So if you head out to Trash Panda or Toyota Field in 7 days. We'll let you know the rule change that you need to pay attention to.
If you need a car, McCurry Motors is ready to put you in a quality vehicle, and in-house financing is available. If you have a job, McCurry Motors will work with you even if you have a bankruptcy, divorce, or bad credit. Visit McCurrySaysYes.com. Every car comes with a warranty, and they report to the credit bureau. With 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens, call 256-230-0232, or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville. Call 256-713-0575.
Tender's Chicken is kicking. Tender's Chicken is fresh, never frozen, and hand-battered and stored. Tender's Chicken and fries are fried in totally trans-fat-free oil. Try the Big Daddy with 6 Tender's fries, slaw, garlic bread, and Tender's famous dipping sauce. Tender's is salad, wings, grilled chicken sandwiches, and more. Tender's Wind Drive just off University, Holmes Avenue 5 Points, Madison Street next to the hospital, and on Madison Boulevard, Madison. Or skip the line and order online at tenderschicken.com.
WCZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Still not a bad-looking ride in. No wrecks, no stalls, no traffic signal problems to deal with. That can change quickly, so you be careful this morning. Put some extra room in there so you got somewhere to go if something does go wrong. From routine care to heart failure, Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist have the expertise to care for all matters of the heart. Doctor visits are important. Please don't put them off. Captain Nick in the Jordan Lane Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
From the WZDX Pinpoint Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Severe weather will be possible beginning after the lunch hour and continuing as we head into the evening. If this threat for severe weather does come to fruition, all modes would be possible. Our biggest concerns are going to be damaging winds and some very large hail, but there also is a tornado threat included. Temperature-wise, it is going to be a relatively warm afternoon, highs hanging out in the upper 70s, some of us climbing into the lower 80s, dropping into the mid-upper 50s as we head into the overnight rain comes to an end early Wednesday morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Brad Musburger's Action Update. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of your car care needs. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Now, here are the latest lines from my guys in the desert.
Updated odds for Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders to unify 3 of the 4 major super middleweight belts set for this Saturday in Arlington, Texas, in front of 60,000 fans. Alvarez a sizable favorite, minus 800. Saunders a plus 500 underdog. Golf, the Wells Fargo Championship beginning Thursday. Justin Thomas and Justin Rahm each at plus 1,100 odds. Bryson DeChambeau at plus 1,400. Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele at plus 1,800. Baseball, the Braves at the Nationals tonight. Atlanta coming in the road favorite, minus 135 on the money line. Washington plus 115, the over-under 8.5. Braves attempting to snap a 4-game losing streak. I'm Trey Westerberg, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Log on today, 97.7ESPN.com. Welcome to Talkin Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 25.
And just like that, we're off and running. It's hour number 2 of Talking Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And as always, this segment of Talking Ball brought to you by our very good friends over at Terrell Technical Services Incorporated. Don't forget Terrell Technical Services Incorporated in Madison. They offer that full line of environmental health and safety services, including industrial hygiene, asbestos, mold, and bacterial services, Legionella testing, water management plans, lead-based paint inspection assessments and abatement plans, environmental site assessments, LEED certified air testing, and more. Their staff does hold all US EPA accreditations and nationally recognized certifications and credentials to necessitate your project to completion. Give Terrell Technical Services a call today at 256-461-9278 to discuss your environmental health or safety needs. And that is Terrell Technical Services, 256-461-9278. And we kick off hour number 2. And we talked to you about Alabama A&M, the Bulldogs, and they won the SWAC championship over the weekend. They got by Arkansas Pine Bluff.
For the first time since the Anthony Jones era.
Yep, so congratulations to them. But Box Tro, FCS, HBCU, the football coaches poll came out, and Alabama A&M, congratulations to the Bulldogs. They have claimed the HBCU National Championship. So I believe means everything to the program, says third-year head coach Connell Maynor. So the Bulldogs, I believe, I know it's it's the SWAC's first championship since 2016 when Grambling won the Box Tro HBCU National Championship. But Alabama A&M claims its first ever HBCU National Championship.
Yeah, show me the money, Connell Manor. Want that contract extension. Not going to Southern University. Wants to stay here on the Hill and continue to build the program heading into year 4. But Akil Glass, what a breakout year he had. Going to be interesting to see how he does this fall. But a great year for the Bulldogs and overcoming and persevering because, as we've said many times, playing a whole season on the road.
Yeah.
Did not, due to COVID, get a chance, had a home game canceled, and did not get a chance to play. But kudos to Alabama A&M for overcoming all the, the interruptions and things of that nature to claim their first SWAC title since the days of Anthony Jones when he had a really good run at Alabama A&M.
And for Connell Maynor, this is his third time winning a national championship. He won 2 as a head coach with Winston-Salem in 2011 and 2012. He also won it as a player with North Carolina A&T in 1990. So congratulations to the Alabama A&M Bulldogs on winning the national championship. And as we mentioned, going to break in hour number 1. If you are attending minor league baseball games this year, you're going to see some rule changes, and they're minor rule changes. You may not even know that they're going on, but there are rule changes nonetheless. So in AAA, Drew, if you go to a AAA ball game, a minor league game in AAA, you're going to see larger bases. Okay, they're playing with 18 square inch bases rather than 15-inch bases. So like I said, you probably won't even notice that one at all. AA, this affects the Rocket City Trash Pandas. To start the season, infielders will be required to have their feet on the dirt, though they can stand anywhere on the field in regulating the shift. In the second half of the AA season, the rules will require 2 infielders to be positioned on either side of second base, as well as have their cleats on the dirt as the pitch is thrown. Baseball's still trying to figure out how to counteract the shift, but that is the rules for AA. So AA will try to make rule changes in regards to the shift. In low southeast baseball, low A, you're going to have automated balls and strikes. Robot umpires will be experimented. That's right. For the first time in affiliated baseball, the Atlantic League, the Arizona Fall League, those have already used electronic signaling for balls and strikes, but now select low-A games will have the home plate umpire wearing an earpiece connected to TrackMan radar systems installed at the park. The software will say ball or strike to the umpire, who will announce it to the players and crowd.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger. I can just see that. Or you get the signal freaking screwed up, and then we've seen this before. You end up with the the drive-through window at Popeye's Chicken or Kentucky Fried Chicken or Taco Bell or something, and people are ordering food. I hope it goes well, though.
Oh, man. So that is some minor rule changes in minor league baseball.
Well, I thought one of the interesting takes from Jay Bell, too, was that he was asked about the extra innings rules change for
by
Major
our
League.
own Steve Moulton.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying, because this is something they did last year during the shortened season, but have kept it for the 162-game regular season, and that is, of course, when the game goes to extra innings, the hitter that is retired to end the inning, the inning before, he starts out at second base in extra innings, and then you automatically have a runner in scoring position to start the inning. I thought his take, though, Scott, was interesting about that. You would, I wasn't surprised at part of it, but the part of it, was a little bit surprising, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, it was. He basically says it's not for him to decide. I don't think he's in favor of it on the major league level.
He said he wasn't in favor of it on the major league level, but he is in favor of it to save pitching and not overly tax your bullpen when you have a limited roster in the minor league. So he's in favor of it for minor league baseball, but not for the major league.
All right, let's see if I queued this Torrey Hunter Jr. up right. When you asked him about his father. If I didn't, I apologize, but I'm thinking I've queued this up right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man, because you see his pitch.
No, I didn't. Once again, I didn't queue it up right. He's looking right at. I'm going to get that question right. I can't find exactly where you asked that, but we'll find that on as the show goes on a little bit later. I got to figure that one out. The odds to win the national championship, Drew, are out, and it goes along with the expansion of the college football playoffs and everything, and how they were saying that, hey, look, the same 5 teams get in, the same 4 teams, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, those are the ones that always get in. So what were the odds? What are the odds to win the college football national championship? According to DK Sportsbook, who put this out yesterday, these are your 2021 odds to win the college football national championship. Alabama, your favorite at plus 250. Clemson, second at plus 300. Ohio State, third, plus 400. Georgia is there at fourth at plus 700, with Oklahoma at plus 800. Long shots to win the national championship in the SEC. LSU is a plus 2,500. Texas A&M is a plus 2,500. So there are 7 teams right there that we throw out to win the national championship. Is it going to be more than likely? Would you take the 4, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, that's 5, to get there? Or would you be surprised if 2 of the 3, 3 of the 3 other teams make it into the college football playoffs other than the ones that we mentioned?
I'd take the 5. I would take one of those 5.
Or the rest of I should say the rest of college football's field versus those 5.
Oh, I'd still take the 5, no doubt about it. I still think your national champion is going to come from there. I think those are there's the most stability there and the most talent are on those rosters.
Right. Does that then go to we were talking yesterday about the college football playoffs? Does that just go into the credo that, or not credo, but does that go into the mantra that, hey, it is time for an expansion? Because if we're talking about the exact same 5 again, making it there, I mean.
No, because what will happen, you'll expand it, and the 3 that get a chance to join the show are still going to get their asses blasted.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're not going to win the championship, but it at least allows them to say we were in the playoff and we were a scrimmage fodder for someone, because that's basically what they're going to be. I hate to be that way, but I really think it'll be a lot of blowouts.
Alabama has the best odds at plus 250. I mean, is that fair? I mean, not fair, but I don't want to say fair. Alabama lost a lot on offense. So, I mean, is that surprising that Alabama's the favorite at plus 250?
See, you got to understand, they weren't the favorite last year, but they plugged Mac Jones in, and he became a Heisman front runner and the best quarterback in college football. And that's what he was last year. He wasn't Trevor Lawrence. He had a whooped ass. He was watching on television. And then Justin Fields, he was not healthy. We understand that. And he did throw 6 touchdowns against Clemson. But I'll just quote Vern Lundquist, Clemson ain't Alabama. They weren't last year. So Alabama had the best team, and Mac Jones outperformed him. So Mac became the best quarterback in college football. Bryce Young comes in as the number 1 player in the country at his position in his recruiting class. It's kind of like the Najee Harris situation when Najee came in as a 5-star and the number 1 player in the country. Eventually, the cream rises to the top. That's why Alabama has got the best odds right now, because people believe that Bryce Young will be a breakout guy. It still has to happen.
Right.
But that's what it's being based on. And it's being based on Alabama's monster recruiting class and still having so much talent on their roster. Now, there's others that like Clemson, DJ Uiagalelei, Georgia, JT Daniels. But guess what? That's what's going to be the beauty about this coming season. We're going to find out week 1 about both of them because they're playing each other in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so either Clemson or Georgia is going to be the co-favorite with Alabama early on, whoever wins that game. By the way, I'm taking Clemson, taking coaching and Uiagalelei, and I'm taking Georgia to choke like they always do.
Well, Georgia's wide receiving core. I mean, if you're looking at Georgia, you're looking at question marks. Yes, Georgia has a quarterback in JT Daniels to throw the ball, but the question is, and it seemed like we asked this 2 years ago, even with whoever was at Georgia, who's going to catch the ball for Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Blaylock will be coming back from 2 knee injuries. I know that they believe that they're still going to be able to have a very talented wide receiver room at Georgia. At George Pickens, of course, we know they lost him due to a knee injury. But, I mean, they do have talent returning. They have some talent coming in. Jermaine Burton's injury was not season-ending, so they will have him. He made plays against Alabama last year. Certainly they have Jackson back as well, who had a good year as a kind of the number 2 to George Pickens. Really was their most productive guy. So we're going to see – it's going to be interesting to see how good those Georgia receivers are, because that may really tell the tale as to whether or not they're a true championship contender.
All right, 256-576-4977. That's the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. If you want to get in on the show this morning, feel free to do so. Now is a great time to do it. We've talked about the college football playoff expansion. We've talked about the transfer portal, Tennessee and Auburn. Tennessee getting some out of the transfer portal. Auburn having a couple guys go into the transfer portal. We've talked Rocket City Trash Panda baseball. The Trash Panda is opening the season tonight on the road in Chattanooga. Their first game as the new franchise. We've talked about Alabama A&M capturing the HBCU national championship. So congratulations to the Bulldogs. Something interesting I saw on 24/7 Sports, and it did kind of get me thinking. If you could go back in time and change one play, Drew, in your college football team's history, one play. So for you, it'd be one play for Alabama in its history. A lot of people were commenting on this, and some of them were pretty easy. A lot of people wanted to do the USC Notre Dame game, USC Boston College. What one play, if you could change one play or not a season, to just one play from your team's history, is there a play that you would change?
Yeah, sure. Bo Scarborough hurting his knee against Clemson in 2016, because if he doesn't get hurt, it doesn't matter about Sean Dion Hamilton or Eddie Jackson, because Clemson wanted no part of Bo. And I think it changed the trajectory of his football career. He's still in the NFL.
Right.
But I think he was headed toward being a first-round draft choice. I don't know.
Was he a senior? Would he have?
No, he would have been back the next year.
Right.
but I think the injury, it took him a long time to get over it. And I think it just sat him back. Because if you remember, he dominated against Washington in the semifinals. He was really good down the stretch of the season, and he was dominating Clemson. Alabama was up 2 touchdowns, and they were running the football down Clemson's throat. So to me, if he stays healthy, they still win. And it would have taken more pressure off of Jalen Hurts because there was too much pressure on him in that game to have to make plays with his arm that he wasn't ready to make. And so I just think that injury cost Alabama a national championship, and certainly it cost Bo Scarborough maybe a shot at being a number 1 pick instead of going in the 7th round. So I think it changed a lot of things, and I still think now 2020 is probably the most talented, but it was one of Nick Saban's most talented teams that should have run the table and been 15-0 before Clemson and won the national championship. Because they were better than Clemson when they were healthy and whole, but they weren't by the time that was. You lose Eddie Jackson, best safety in America, best punt returner in America. You lose Sean Dion Hamilton, the brains and the guts and the heart of that defense in the middle. And then probably the most underrated player still of the Nick Saban era. And then you lose a guy like Bo Scarborough, who came out of high school with all those accolades. It took him a couple of years, but he was hitting his stride. He was looking like a beast, like no one wanted a part of him. And then he got hurt, and it just really sent him back. And he's had a long road. And I think he probably would have been a Heisman front runner if he had been healthy to start the next season. Because I don't think anybody realized how bad the injury was. And if you remember, he shared time, but he just didn't show the same kind of explosiveness and power and speed that you had seen.
That's interesting. That's good. And see, I was thinking about this, and I was like, man, there's so many plays in the Iowa lore. But I'm going to go Northern Iowa with mine just simply because I was in school at Northern Iowa at the time, and I was helping cover the Panthers team. All 11 players on defense, we needed to guard Randy Moss when we were taking on Marshall in the
FCS
about a mismatch
playoffs. in the FCS. Good Lord, Randy Moss against any of that.
That was those were some long. That was a long game there in Huntington, West Virginia, in the playoffs. There was Northern Iowa going up against Randy Moss. So basically, it was the whole entire game for that one there. I tell you what, though, let's get our break in because when we come back, we need to talk football some more, and that would be covering Tennessee.
Matt Ray, SI, coming up next.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Watching strong thunderstorms in Lincoln and Moore County, Tennessee. Some high winds there, 60-plus mile-an-hour winds involved in those storms. And that line of wind comes all the way down to northwest of Hazel Green. So if you're in the northern part of Madison County, watch out there. Accident-wise, we just got a report westbound 565 near exit 9. That's going to put it close to Wall Triana. Reported with injuries, but they just updated it to a no injury. The Somnodent from Dr. Sandman's an easy-to-use oral device, insurance approved for sleep apnea and for snoring. 350-CARE or RandallSandlin.com. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
Tom Luganbill here for Woody Anderson Ford. When I was in the Tennessee Valley, one of the things that impressed me the most was the quality of the people. People like Bobby White and his team at Woody Anderson Ford. And now you can experience the tremendous new service lanes and showroom at Woody Anderson Ford at Jordan and Sparkman, or just stop by for breakfast or lunch at Henry's Mustang Cafe. And in Madison, visit Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, just south of 72. Like a great college football tradition, always there, Woody Anderson Ford.
Now is the best time to have your rugs cleaned. Call Bracy Cleaning today. Bracy offers free pickup and free delivery. We also offer upholstery cleaning in your home or at our shop. And if you're moving, Bracy will pick up at your old home, clean, and deliver to your new home ready to enjoy. Bracy even offers commercial strip and wax and carpet cleaning for both residential and commercial. Discounts available for churches, schools, and charitable organizations. In business for 38 years. Bracy Cleaning. Call today for your free estimate. 256-248-4108 or online at bracycleaning.com.
This is Wes Neighbors sitting here with Ann Adams. And I understand you have some exciting news.
Yes, Wes, I do.
Berkshire Hathaway Home Services was just recognized in the 30th annual Harris Poll Equitrin as the real estate agency brand of the year and the most trusted real estate brand.
That is awesome news, Ann. Great companies in Huntsville, Alabama, winning awards is what we want. Is it a great time to list your home?
Yes, it is. The inventory is low and the market is heating up.
And I understand you're also looking for agents.
I am. We are so busy, Wes. We need agents to keep up with the demand.
Ann Adams and Rise Real Estate has been doing business in North Alabama for the last 35 years. If you want to do business with someone you can trust, she has been writing contracts since she was 9 years old. Call Ann today at 256-337-2625.
Coming up next, it's the Tom Abraham Show with me, Tom Abraham. Now back to more Talkin Ball with Scott and Drew.
Mike's on. All right, 8:25 on a Wednesday morning. Getting ahead of myself here. On a Tuesday morning here in the Rocket City, 97.7 ESPN, the Zone's Talking Ball. We're going to be with you for another 35 minutes or so as we talk some more football, Tennessee football. And we told you the Vols were getting some help in that thin linebacking core in the first hour. And we've said all along, Drew, that Josh Heupel was probably going to be busy in the transfer portal, not going out and just grabbing anybody and everybody, but grabbing some needs for this team.
Yeah, and with Auburn, it was more what we talked about with Jake Crain was attrition. Now,
yes,
we do think they'll add pieces, but with our next guest, we are talking additions and major ones, and we could have more maybe even by the end of the week. It wouldn't surprise me the way the transfer portal works. But he is the publisher of VR2 on SI, which focuses on Tennessee athletics for Sports Illustrated at SI Now publication, as we know, covering Tennessee athletics, especially recruiting. He does an outstanding job with SI All-American and their, of course, head honcho, who's a great friend of ours, and that's John Garcia. But we always enjoy catching up with our next guest, Matt Ray, who, of course, does a great job covering the Big Orange. Matt, welcome back to Huntsville. You're with Drew and Scott. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are y'all?
We are good. And the last few days, there has been a lot of good news coming out of Knoxville. For our listeners, we talked about it a little bit in hour one, but update everyone on these two additions in the last few days, especially yesterday, though. Major addition at linebacker, but talk about the two defensive additions for Tennessee.
Yeah, we'll start with Jawan Mitchell. Major addition at linebacker. If you're Josh Heupel, that was the position that you had to address coming out of spring. Going to get some help back there, obviously. And when Jeremy Banks returns, Roman Harrison will probably get a look at linebacker as well. But you had to add a quality body there with some experience, and Jawan Mitchell was the best available guy in that transfer portal, and Tennessee was able to work in there quietly and grab him, a guy they're very excited about, rightfully so. He replaced a lot of production there, 20 starts last fall between Henry Toto and Quavaris Crouch. Both of those guys gone. Mitchell, leading tackler at Texas last fall. So this is a big addition for Tennessee, a guy that's going to come in, be able to lead the room the right way, show the younger linebackers how things should be done. Just for Tennessee, just on and off the field, it's just a huge pickup for the Vols with Jawan Mitchell, who's all business. He has a bulk of experience dating back to his junior college time, so he's been in different defensive schemes. He's able to, work in different aspects as a linebacker. A three-down linebacker for Tennessee that they absolutely had to have, and they went out and got in the transfer portal. And then with Caleb Tremblay, the USC defensive line transfer, I feel like, people are not as excited about Tremblay, but I can tell you the Tennessee staff is excited about Tremblay. This is a guy that they feel like they had to have, a guy that they wanted to bring in, that they think can play from day one, can move across the defensive front for them. He's set up to play in the attacking style that Rodney Garner wants his defensive line to play. He's had success at a high rate when he's been healthy. That's been his biggest question mark, is can he stay healthy? And talking with a few people out on the West Coast that have got to know Tremblay, been around Tremblay, watched him play, they think that he can absolutely play his way into a draft pick if he stays healthy this fall. So another big addition for Tennessee is as Rodney Garner, and you don't hear this a lot, but Rodney Garner's defensive line unit was, probably the most scrutinized this spring. So a guy that's just had such a significant track record of developing and producing, outside of Tennessee's linebacker group, the defensive line was kind of right there with them. So two big additions for Tennessee at the biggest positions of need, in my opinion. And as you mentioned, Drew, I think the transfer portal is just going to continue to stay hot for a lot of teams, and it giveth and it taketh away. But for the Vols, it's given right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how they continue to push there with probably a couple of spots at least left to make a run if they feel like they can get the right guy.
I was going to ask you, how many more slots do they have available to fill, and then how aggressive will they continue to be in filling those slots, and will it be heavy on the defensive side of the ball, or will they try to spread it over to the offensive side?
Yeah, I've at least heard of them kicking the tires on a couple of wide receivers over the last couple of weeks, so you could see some there. We'll see what happens with that. But I think, again, it's going to be who is available, and I think you're going to see more guys start popping in. Obviously, several big announcements in the last, 3 or 4 days. Jay Hardy goes in. I haven't heard enough there to suggest that Tennessee's really going to make a strong push for him at this point, but obviously the one-time SEC transfer rule is not in effect. They haven't, adopted that yet. So we'll see what happens if that goes into effect and if Hardy hasn't made a decision. But, right now I can see Tennessee taking 2 or 3 guys if they can get the guys that they want, and I could see them going offense for a receiver, and I could see them, trying to add a couple of quality bodies on the defense.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. You talked about Jay Hardy, but Rodney Garner heavily involved in the recruitment of him to Auburn and to Jaron Handy. Ultimately, I know you just mentioned it, but might we see Tennessee pursue? I would be surprised eventually if they don't get involved with Hardy, because they were heavily involved with him a couple of years ago when he came out of high school. But what about Jaron Handy? Do you see Tennessee potentially being a factor there?
Yeah, I think it probably really comes down to if the SEC begins to allow the one-time, interconference transfer rule. And we'll see. I guess we'll find out an answer on that later this month. But I think for both of those guys, you can see Tennessee get involved. Obviously, Rodney Garner, the primary reason that Jay Hardy, kind of shunned Tennessee in a shocking announcement a couple of years ago to go to Auburn. So, you have to think that if Tennessee wants to make a push there and that was just runner-up, that they have a really good setup to do so. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Tennessee get more involved. Right now, I haven't heard enough to think that they're, fully involved. But I guess we'll see where it goes. Same with Handy. I think both of those guys could be targets that Garner makes a push for, even with the addition of Tremblay, and we'll see how things shake out for Tennessee, and if any more attrition, in their from their current roster that could lead them to have to push at another position. I think there are ultimately some different deciding factors right now on how they're going to pursue the transfer portal. I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions. I'm glad Josh Heupel can.
Yeah, well, and to get the negative out of the way, Matt, talk about the taketh away a couple of guys hitting the portal, but they were involved with the incident and the suspensions earlier this year.
Yeah, more of a I don't really know how to word it, Drew, but more of a not so much of a choice, I guess.
I guess addition by subtraction, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Both of those guys, I feel like, I don't know that they were going to have the opportunity to hang around. So not as much of a surprise on some of those guys. There's always, now with the transfer portal being so active, you always are hearing rumors and everything of people that go in. So you're always having to double and triple check with guys and find out or ask around. And, I don't think either one of those guys surprised anybody that, were familiar with the situation. So again, addition by subtraction.
Your thoughts on getting a chance to see the guys that are there right now, though, in the spring game?
Yeah. So do you have a specific position or just the guys in general?
Yeah, just. I mean, everybody was excited to see what Josh Heupel was going to do. I think the anticipation of the spring game, but just the thoughts on what he's been able to do in that short amount of time.
Yeah, I think Tennessee came a long ways in terms of install. And, as we talked about before the spring game, that was, goal number one for Josh Heupel this spring. You look at what happened to Jeremy Pruitt last year, getting cut short of a spring, everything kind of set up for him to have an open quarterback competition. And you have spring taken away from you, and then you're not able, to make those changes that you want to your offense. So you have to fall back into an offense that's, not as efficient, quite frankly, and try to depend on your defense. And Tennessee wasn't able to do that. For Josh Heupel, an offensive guy, you have to get this installed this spring. You can't have any setbacks. And I think Tennessee got to a good point. And now they have a chance to really open competition up across the board, defensively and offensively. They have a chance to open competition up. And if you're a head coach, that's really the most you can ask for, I think, in Josh Heupel's situation. I think you've seen a tremendous amount of buy-in from his players. You saw a lot of Jeremy Pruitt players, a lot of Jeremy Pruitt recruits, Bryson Easton, most recently, that are speaking so highly of what Josh Heupel's done and the buy-in from him and his teammates. That's key. That's what you have to have. You have to win the locker room before you can win on the field in most situations, and specifically in Tennessee's situation, in my opinion. And I think Josh Heupel is winning the locker room. You look at a couple of days after spring practice, he's got the team out. They're playing, coach first player softball game. They're playing basketball all the time. They're doing so much to build that bond inside the locker room, and I think it's paying off for him. It's more than just football, and these guys are seeing that, and they're relating to that, and they're seeing how these coaches are interacting and so active in social media. I think it's just a different energy in Knoxville right now, and I think people around the Tennessee fan base are starting to see that, hey, things are different. It may take a little bit of time, but Josh Heupel's taking a very different approach to this. These players are buying in, and they're gonna swing the football around the field. I don't think it matters who Tennessee's playing. I think that they are going to swing the football. He's going to run his offense no matter what. I think last year for Jeremy Pruitt, that was, a big criticism. Those guys would run, and get to a 3rd and 5 and maybe still run. So they kind of tried to protect and not really attack. And I think Tennessee fans are ready to see attack. And Josh Heupel's offense was on full display in the spring game, even if they did score, 70-something points. It doesn't look great for the defense, but there was at least some, fun and explosive plays created.
And then, of course, as we just previously mentioned, D-lineman, Isaac Washington, and then linebacker Martavius French now gone. But others, like, I know Joe Milton has been added to the quarterback room, but what about the future of Caden Salter? Do you still expect him to return to Tennessee?
Right now, it sounds like the future for Salter is a little bit brighter than it was a couple of months ago. At this point, I'm kind of expecting a return for Salter. Same for Aaron Willis. We'll see what happens for those guys. But the latest that, I've asked around is that I'm kind of expecting both of those guys to return. So we'll see what happens. That, again, with Salter, you have 5 guys in the quarterback room, and if he is to return, he's obviously going to have his work cut out for him. It's not going to be easy. He's going to have guys with starting experience that have already learned the install, that have been around the program, that are getting familiar with receivers. So it's going to be, it's going to be a tough uphill battle for him. But, Caden Salter has, been very adamant from the beginning that he loved Tennessee, and that was the reason he came, and he never swayed on that with the previous coaching staff turnover. So I think if, he gets back in the program, he's going to do what he needs to do and take those steps towards being one of the quarterbacks of the future for Tennessee.
How great for the Tennessee program, for him himself, to hear Trey Smith's name be called on draft day, especially everything that he went through.
Yeah, a little bit later than we all thought, but certainly a great situation with the Chiefs making 2 straight Super Bowl runs.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're Trey Smith and you've, slid to that point, you're upset, obviously. I mean,
right.
That's not what you're expecting, but you can't fall into a better situation with the Chiefs, who are one looking to completely revamp their offensive line as we've seen this offseason. And, you know, like you said, you're going to play with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and, you know, they're probably going to be right back in the AFC Championship, if not the Super Bowl, you know, for the next couple of years. So it couldn't have turned out to be a better situation for Trey Smith. And, you know, like many around the country, I think he was probably the steal of the draft. I don't think anybody got a better value pick. You know, obviously, you know, he has the question marks about his health. I feel like he had answered the majority of those.
Right.
You know, going through everything that he's gone through, that's something that he was, you know, very transparent about, that he felt like that he had answered all those questions. So I think Kansas City's thrilled to steal him when they did. But if for him, it's just, for him and for Tennessee fans, it's such a great moment, because this is a guy that's just embodied everything that Tennessee. He could have hung it up. He could have gone to the NFL early. He just gave Tennessee everything, and this is a guy that deserves everything that, you know, positive that comes his way in the NFL. And even though he split, I don't think he could have came out any better than going to the Chiefs.
Well, and Matt, I've got it to pivot. We just talked about 5 guys being in that quarterback room. When fall camp comes around, and of course we didn't get to see him in the spring at all, how quickly will Joe Milton be a factor after what you saw in the orange and white game? You know, and it seems as though with Josh Heupel adding Joe Milton, that he wasn't completely satisfied with the production and development following his first spring in Knoxville.
Yeah, you know, I think Joe Milton becomes a factor. I think he's the factor from day one. You know, obviously, I think there's a reason that he's coming here. He thinks there's an opportunity for him to play. He feels like he can thrive in this offense. I had a chance to talk with him for a few minutes after the spring game, and he loved the tempo. He thinks that it's going to get even faster when he gets here, and that the install is going to continue to progress, and that's something that he's excited about. And, you know, ultimately, you know, I think for the Tennessee quarterback room, I don't think the competition has fully just opened up yet. I think you're going to see it start in June. I think if you're Josh Heupel, you have 15 opportunities to look at those guys, learn about them, see how they react to your coaching, not necessarily what they've put on film before, and see how you can, you know, tailor, you know, your offense to their game. And that's something that Tennessee's coaches have talked about a lot, is tailoring their offensive system to fit each quarterback in that room. And for the spring game, you know, you kind of saw that. Harrison Bailey won the day. However, he, you know, wasn't always the most consistent at times during the spring, where it would be times where it seemed like Hendon Hooker was kind of making that leap, and then Brian Maurer would make a leap. So now I think you bring Joe Milton in, another guy with starting experience, another guy with an added, you know, element to that quarterback room. I think it's going to be a full-blown competition to see who can get it, who can pick up the rest of the install quickly, who can win the locker room. There's going to be so many things. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out when preseason and fall camp kicks off.
No question about it. And I got to say, you guys will have it covered ad nauseum, because you cover Tennessee athletics so well for part of SI now. But it's going to be a fun next few weeks. Looks like very likely that we're going to see Tennessee baseball and softball hosting regionals.
Yeah, seems like both of those programs are going to get to host regionals. And there's Tony Vitello has really just brought so much energy around that baseball program. It's kind of crazy to think of what he's done. And then, of course, Vols softball is, you know, usually a perennial power anyways. So, again, it's crazy to see those two sports thriving at the same time in Tennessee, and it's something that Tennessee fans have really wanted, and you're really seeing the turnout for both of those programs, and you'll really probably see it intensify when they get to host those regionals.
Yeah, it'll be a great for the campus, a lot of energy. Of course, there was huge energy when Vanderbilt came for that baseball series for a couple of top 5 teams, as Tony Vitello has just done an amazing job there with the Vol program. And now what they've done, going back to the salad days, really of Rod Delmonico, as they are now a national factor yet again. You can follow that on VR2 on SI, which is Matt Ray. Well, Matt, we appreciate the time, brother. You do a great job covering UT athletics. Let everybody know how to follow you and connect with you.
You can find us all on social media at VR2 on SI. You can head over to si.com/college/Tennessee for all our work. You want to read about the transfers that are coming in a little bit more. We have our impact reporting on both of those guys, stories on both of those guys, what they've done previously, how they got to Tennessee. Guys, thank you for having me on as always.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Stay safe, and we really appreciate the time.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, we'll have our tomorrow's headlines today, and the phone line's still open to you.
And the sky's opening up.
You're listening to Talkin Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Sounds like we got a power outage in Decatur. They had a report of a wire down on 6th Avenue in the 800 block. Now we got a wreck on 6th Avenue at 14th. Got a wreck in Madison at Hughes and Gillespie. Another one on 565 westbound right across from Toyota Field. I don't have a report of injury there. 2030 Fast Track can make your clothes fall off. Allison lost 100 pounds in 7 months on the plan. A free hormone quiz will tell you if it can work for you. 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jap Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121. McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
Guys, when we were 20, we never had to worry about spontaneity. And now that we've gotten older, spontaneity has been replaced with pills and injections. We're just trying to keep that intimacy, but it's taken away from spontaneity. At Advanced Life Clinic, we now offer GainsWave, which uses sound waves to non-invasively treat this issue with no need for pills or injections. Just give us a call, 256-888-9367, or check us out online, advancedlifeclinic.com.
This segment of Talkin Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com. I want to thank you. Thank you for making us your #1 choice for sports talk in North Alabama.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
All right, 10 minutes to the music, Marcel.
It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
And tomorrow's headlines today, we were just talking Tennessee football. Mentioned a little bit of Tennessee baseball. We got to mention this, though. The co-newcomer of the week in the SEC is one Jordan Beck of Tennessee. All he did was hit .538 in the Vols series win over Kentucky. He finished the week with 7 hits, 4 RBIs. He had 4 runs scored, 2 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs while slugging .923. He went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and set a career high with 3 runs scored in the win Thursday. His 3-run homer in the second inning tied the game at 3 and jump-started a 7-run outburst for the Vols in the frame. Beck set another career high with 4 hits in Saturday's series finale, including an RBI double that tied the game at 1 in the second inning. So Jordan Beck, Hazel Green product.
STUD. He's a stud. I mean, he's an outstanding baseball player. Was drafted after his senior season at Hazel Green under Coach Frankie Perez by the Red Sox. I believe it was in the 14th round, but he decided to go to Tennessee, and he's going to be a high draft pick, trust me, in another year or so when he plays his 3rd year with the Vols. He's a 5-tool guy. He can run, hit, throw, power. You know, he can hit for average. I know he got off to a little bit of a slow start this year, but certainly is extremely talented. Got a great arm, can really, as I say, can really run as well. He can do it all. I expect him to have a really good chance if he stays healthy to be a major league player. You know, it was interesting. Basically, when his senior year, when they lost to Coleman in the playoffs, and it was the end of his career. I believe that was a quarterfinal series. I went to watch some of that.
Yeah.
And basically, when they would get him out, Coleman would act like they won the World Series because he's just a stud. He's a guy that hits the ball so hard. They feared him, and they should have. I mean, he's a great player. Was also a great basketball player now for Danny Anderson. And on a Final Four team, he was a guy that could have played Division II basketball. I don't think there's any question about that. But Jordan Beck, looks like to me to be a future pro in baseball.
All right, in SEC softball news, Arkansas grabs a win yesterday against LSU, and the Arkansas Razorbacks, 2016, I believe they had won just one game or winless or whatever in the league. They are now the SEC regular season champions in softball.
Yeah, and once again, how did that doubleheader come out yesterday?
I just know. Let's see here.
I know they were playing because of weather. They did not play a game on Sunday, so they were playing 2 yesterday at LSU. And if Arkansas were able to, because see, unlike
Arkansas took one of the games 4-1,
Yeah.
and LSU took the other one 2-1.
Yeah, and see that it's given Arkansas a chance to at least tie for the championship because they're done in the regular season as far as SEC play.
Right.
Because you're playing 24 games, and I think they ended up 19-5. So I think the Florida Gators can still tie them, but they're at least going to have a share of that championship. So it's been a meteoric rise for Arkansas softball.
All right, and the other one, Drew, is May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
See? Happy Star Wars Day. Fan of the Star Wars franchises?
Was when I was younger. Haven't watched a lot of the new stuff. All I'll say.
You haven't?
No. I think I've seen one of them.
All right, so college football, spring games are done with. They're over with. Teams are now off-season conditioning. Transfer portal is open. Players are going everywhere. The one-time transfer rule is in effect. But the Athletic has taken the post-spring top 25 and have ranked the teams. They call it the official post-spring top 25 because at least 2 teams, well, actually, Stanford and UCLA won't be done until closer to Memorial Day. So they still have spring football going on. There is still spring football going on in the United States, and Stanford and UCLA still wrapping things up because they probably got a late start out there on the West Coast. Your top 25 post-spring teams, number 1, obviously they are going with Alabama because they said Bryce Young looked sharp in his spring game debut. They also say that Nick Saban will have his most formidable defense in several years. Years, they say, not seasons, years behind Will Anderson and Christopher Allen and Josh Jobe and freshman quarterback JaQuincy McKinstry. So they say years for Nick Saban's defense.
Well, I mean, it's got a chance to be the best since 2016. I don't doubt that. But certainly, and then with the softball situation, as we said, Arkansas will no worse than tie the Florida Gators. Florida will have to sweep Texas A&M to tie for the championship. And Texas A&M has not been great, but we will see. Certainly Florida, that's a very winnable series and a very sweepable series for the Lady Gators. But you got to give Arkansas a ton of credit. They did lose 2 out of 3 to Alabama, but Arkansas with a great regular season.
Number 2 on the top 25 is Georgia.
Yeah.
With quarterback JT Daniels. They say he's 4-0. He was 4-0 last year as a starter. He'll be back. But he's got proven weapons in Jermaine Burton, Kyrus Jackson, tight end Darnell Washington.
He hadn't made a play in his life yet. Good Lord.
And freshman wide receiver Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, it's another big-time addition.
Okay.
No doubt. And I think Arian Smith, too, is one to watch. He's a speed guy for Georgia. To see the problem is they don't develop players very well. And that when you look at the draft, that's what you see.
They say their defense at Georgia last year led the SEC at 4.9 yards per play, despite poor performances against Alabama and Florida.
Hey, remember, we were told that was a dominating performance, even though Alabama ran the ball up their ass and, had 500 yards.
Well, they say Jordan Davis leads a stacked front seven again this year.
They are stacked. They've got a lot of talent. Let's just hope they don't throw up all over themselves in the first game against Clemson.
Number 3 is Oklahoma. Number 4 is Ohio State. Look for sophomore quarterback C.J. Stroud. Appears to have the hold over 5 early or edge over 5-star early enrollee Kyle McCord is the quarterback race for Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson is number 5. Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher at number 6.
I don't know why. I mean, they've got a lot of talent back on defense, and they do have their running game, but they've got to rebuild their O-line, and the quarterback is a question. I don't know why they're 6th in the country.
They say Isaiah Spiller at running back. They point him out.
Fine player.
Dual threat quarterback Haynes King is the presumed heir apparent, but did not separate himself from Zach Calzada in the spring. So they do have a quarterback battle going on at Texas A&M. Number 7 is Iowa State. Number 8 is Cincinnati, who many think could get into the top 4 when the season is all said and done. Number 9 is LSU. They're still high on Ed Orgeron coming back and rebounding. Number 10 is Oregon. 11 Miami. Notre Dame is number 13. So will Notre Dame. Texas is number 15 with new head coach in place there. Liberty, number 18.
There you go. In that November trip to Oxford.
Florida and Dan Mullen, number 20. Still in the top 25, followed by Coastal Carolina, Utah, Arizona State, Penn State, and Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin cracking the top 25 post-spring simply because of Matt Corral. But they say he'll miss star Elijah Moore, but Braylon Sanders, Dontario Drummond, they're fully capable. And with running backs Jerrion Ely and Snoop Connor, they can deliver the big plays for Lane Kiffin.
It's going to be great. I mean, Ole Miss has got a chance to be really good. They've got to improve defensively. I know they played pretty well against Indiana in the bowl game, getting that win, I believe, in the Gator Bowl. But again, they're going to have to get better defensively if they're going to truly contend in the SEC.
All right, so that is your top 25 post-spring. I tell you what, it's all leading into, and I can't wait, Drew. I mean, we keep seeing the list come out. That is SEC Media Days will be here before we know it. We've seen the schedule for SEC Media Days.
Correction, that was an Outback Bowl win. I don't want to, irritate our good friend Jeff from the Borough, who's still licking his wounds last time I told him to go away. But Kentucky actually won the Gator Bowl. Sorry about that, Jeff.
Well, he wasn't going to call in Monday or Tuesday because Kentucky had lost the series against Tennessee in baseball.
Yeah, he didn't celebrate that the series win against Alabama as much. But, of course, he won a national championship in volleyball with Kentucky, though. So he's probably waiting on Fanatics to deliver his gear.
Well, he should.
Yeah, I mean,
he should. He should celebrate.
I'm hopeful that he's celebrating.
I mean, he watched the whole thing.
Yeah, he actually watched that. From start to finish.
Oh, boy, poor Jeff.
The Rebels winning 26-20 and said Outback Bowl.
Poor Jeff. We feel sorry for him.
No, we don't.
Minor League Baseball returns tonight. Rocket City Trash Pandas on the road at Chattanooga. And if the weather is like it is here, they won't be playing because it is thundering outside the studio.
The thunder rolls, the lightning strikes. Everybody stay safe in the weather today.
Look at you going Garth Brooks.
Yes.
30. But you don't watch Star Wars.
I mean, I watched all the prequels when they came out, Star Wars,
20
Jedi.
Right.
I saw all of those. Empire Strikes Back.
Have you watched like Phantom Menace or any of the newer ones?
Yeah, I saw one. I think it was the which one was it? With
10 seconds.
I guess it was the Return it. I can't even remember the name of it.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I'm not an expert on the new Star Wars stuff.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring automated text messages. Message and data rates may apply.
Come on, one more rep. You got this. 10. There it is. Nice work. You're a beast.
Thanks, man. I feel better than I have in years. And I got to tell you, taking Nugenix makes a huge difference for me.
Nugenix? That's the testosterone booster with TV ads with Frank Thomas. The Big Hurt, right?
Oh, yeah. The patented key ingredient is Testofen, which helps boost free testosterone levels and increase lean muscle mass.
Well, it's clearly working for you. Hey, are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try for themselves?
Yeah, Nugenix is a great way to increase lean muscle and feel stronger with more energy and endurance.